Welcome to the Teacher Career Coach podcast with your new host, Elizabeth Sudo. She started her teaching career in 2014. She found she needed a career change after all the changes the pandemic brought to the teaching world. So she transitioned outside of the classroom into an administrative assistant role and now works as an operations manager for a tech startup. Get ready for discussions on all things related to teacher transitions, interview prep, addressing burnout in the classroom, and so much more. Here's your host, Elizabeth Sudo.
Welcome back to the Teacher Career Coach podcast. Today we're so excited to interview Brandon. Brandon worked previously as a police officer, a correctional officer, and also in retail management, overseeing big box stores. He was drawn to education after that, and wanting to share his knowledge, he became a high school business teacher. Recently, Brandon decided to explore the tech industry. After completing an Aspireship course, he spent a year in tech sales, focusing on chatbots for enterprise companies. This experience opened his eyes to the evolving world of tech. Currently, Brandon works in cybersecurity sales in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Join us for a fun-filled chat on sales, the ever-evolving career journey, and the power of relationships and networking. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Elizabeth. I'm really excited to be here.
So we always like to start these off by hearing a little bit about your journey in education. What got you into education in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was a little bit late to the education field. I was previously running some stores in retail, so I worked for Walmart and Lidl, and essentially my dad became a teacher when he was 40. So we went back to college and did that whole thing. So I was always kind of interested in that. I'm like, hey, my dad really has this passion and he changes careers in the middle of it. And I said, I wonder if that'd be something that I might want to do one day. There was kind of this crossroads of wanting to use my talents in that way. I was, like 30 at the time. So I left that kind of corporate world and I pivoted into teaching because I love the training and development of people. I was really looking at what are the things that bring me joy, and it was those one-on-one relationships. And I thought that teaching translated really well to some of those strengths.
That's so cool you got into it as a second career, like one later in life. What grade did you teach? What subject? And for how long?
Yeah, absolutely. So I taught 9th through 12th graders. So I was at high school level and I taught for about 5.5 years. And the funny thing is I taught, I think, over 12 different topics. So it was personal finance, accounting, marketing, international business, video production. It all kind of fell underneath that one thing. So I got to teach all of them. I actually came in the middle of a semester. The other teacher kind of left and they brought me in as a long-term sub. So I was teaching advanced accounting my first week and I've never looked at accounting before. It was one heck of a challenge, but that was kind of part of the fun of it. Was maybe I've never done accounting before, but I got the opportunity to dig into a textbook and take the class.
That's really cool. For students to be able to learn that finance aspect, the accounting, that's amazing. Props to this organization in school.
I have to give a shout out to it because personal finance is my favorite class that I taught, because I still have students, even though I'm out of teaching, that'll reach out and tell me about maybe the loan that they got for college, or they're like, hey, this is the one that we learned in class and this is the interest-free one and I got approved for it, and they'll keep me updated on it. It's something that's truly life-changing when you start knowing how to live financially free, and kids just were eating it up and we're very excited.
That's amazing. And tell us a little bit about, after that 5.5 years, when did you start thinking about leaving and why?
Oh, that's a tough one because I love teaching. It's one of those things that my wife was pregnant and I had a mom that was able to stay home with me, and I felt like it made such a big impact. And I know my wife kind of wanted to do that. She's had a great career and still does, but we wanted a little bit more financial stability and the ability for her to go part-time. Unfortunately, I just couldn't do it on a teacher's salary unless I did that thing where you put on a bunch of hats like a lot of teachers do and work through the summer and then get another side gig. Then you take up all your time with those things as well. I even tried it a little. I started my own social media company and I'm like, this isn't sustainable. it got to the point where I just said, I'm going to look for something that might be a little bit more rewarding financially. At this point in my life, I need to see what else is out there so I could kind of take care of my family in a different way.
Can you talk to us a bit about how you picked sales and then a little bit about the job searching journey?
The funny thing is, I don't know if I picked sales or I picked technology. Being in business classrooms, I loved leveraging technology in the class to make it more efficient. And I was teaching over COVID. So there's all these different technologies that were kind of coming in place. As I was exploring these things, I'm like, wow, I just really love technology. What could I do in that space? I found Aspireship actually, and I'm like, oh, there's a course to learn about tech sales, or pivoting out of this. Like, this is amazing. I think I might have taken PTO actually and just treated it like a job and completed the course like pretty quickly because I was just sucked into it. I loved the customer journey that you were taking customers on, and truly, like, I always kind of thought of sales as, all right, that's that used car salesman, you got to manipulate them a little bit, like, it's not sounds sleazy, but the way that it was really framed was more so, how do you solve customer problems? And I loved that because that was part of that thing that drove me to teaching, actually, is like that one-on-one interaction. How can you improve someone's life? How can you educate them? And really, sales was about that. It was educating the customer on maybe a problem that they haven't identified yet, or helping them solve a problem that they did identify. And then that mixed with technology, I'm like, oh, you can sell chatbots and large language models and all these crazy different things. It just was like a really great synergy between the two, and the competitive nature. I will admit that I missed the competitive nature from teaching. I was used to trying to hit certain sales metrics, even in my past jobs, or manage a P&L. And there wasn't a whole lot of that in teaching. It's like, get your numbers up. We did it. Cool. But there wasn't like that. All right, what's next? What's next? What's next? So sales kind of scratched that itch for me. And the technology was just like a cherry on top.
That's awesome. I'm curious, you mentioned when you were upskilling, you took some PTO. While you were searching for your new position, were you still employed?
Yeah, I was. Yes, but not when I was working. Like, not during
Right.
my
Oh,
school
yeah.
day, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
How did you manage your time while you were doing that? Because it's
Yeah.
almost like two full-time jobs.
Yeah, it is. And looking for a job is a full-time job. And I did apply to some other jobs, like kind of tech related. Inside, I'm like, I know I can do this job, but my resume just didn't show it. I know I can do this job. Why aren't they giving me the chance? That was really draining, almost to the point of like, ugh, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Like, teaching's good enough. What I really appreciated was Aspireship was helping you connect with those companies. And that was the big difference maker between, like, yeah, I'm going to upskill and just take this course. It was like a real partnership aspect to it, and someone kind of leading you. That made it a lot easier. When you're upskilling and going through these courses, I mean, they were asking for a lot, and the final assessment wasn't like, check these boxes and be done with it, which is great because it's actually preparing you. Like, I took PTO. Like, I couldn't handle two jobs at once. Even it was tough. I think that was a great investment. Like, a couple vacation days that are just treated like classroom days, essentially upskilling, like, really paid off in the long run. And then my experience searching for a job was completely different when I was going through Aspireship. I had two companies that I was interested in at the time. Like, my number one choice was who I was paired with. Right away, I'm very blessed, very lucky. And I was, I think, in an interview a couple weeks later. So there was no more filling out my resume and hitting submit and trying to connect with the HR manager on LinkedIn and try every method I could. Aspireship really set me up for success with that.
That's so good to hear. Can you tell us a bit about the interview process in the sales role? What's it like?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm laughing because my experience was good. It was just so unexpected. I taught interview skills and resume writing in the classroom, so I'm thinking I'm pretty prepared for this. But like, a sales one is different, right? So I obviously took like additional courses with Aspireship, or like the additional, hey, what are you going to do for a sales interview? I watched YouTube videos, did all that fun stuff. But my first phone interview was I didn't end up working with this person, but it was very direct. And it was different than the teaching world, because teaching world is like, soft and fluffy. I'll be honest. Everybody's so friendly. They're used to working with kiddos. So it's like, let's all be friends. And the first sales interview was, hey, why do you think you can do this job? What's something that you've done? I can tell they were on a car ride. And I'm like, oh, there's a sense of urgency here. And that first phone screening was a little bit different in the way that it wasn't like get to know you kumbaya. It was, hey, you're coming into this business, you're going to add immediate value. You want to make sure that you're somebody that can do that. After that, I actually got more laid back after the initial phone screening. The project that we did was creating a customer profile for a current customer, and then determining who to reach out to at this company that fits that customer profile. What's your messaging going to look like? Who these people specifically are by using LinkedIn or LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So essentially showing, hey, can you do this job before you get hired for this job? That was one big aspect of it. The other one was normal questions, I'd say, those normal questions. But then there was cold call role play, which I was like, definitely, I was more prepared than I should have been with Aspireship, but still they were throwing curveballs at me that I'm like, ooh, yeah, cold calling, like this, I'm going to have to work on this. So I was humbled a little bit in that. Definitely practice your cold calling before a sales interview, because they put me on the spot and I'm like, this I am not used to. So
that's very helpful. So you went from, and correct me if I'm wrong, a BDR, kind of like a more entry level, and now you're a manager. Tell us a little bit about that career advancement and how that worked in your experience.
Yeah. So I think I don't know if I'd like say it's a career advancement, like full transparency. It's probably more of a pivot. Tech sales it's a beast. Let's be honest. Like you can see the layoffs that are happening in certain places, or then the big hiring spurts and companies kind of jump up. You're in a full on startup environment. And it's great. It really is. Like I enjoyed my time there. But when it came to working with the company that I was at, we were a startup that was owned by a very large parent company. And I think the product market fit just wasn't 100% there. So I could kind of see that writing on the wall. And I actually was trying to protect myself and started looking at other roles when I'm in a role. I think that's kind of a healthy thing to do personally. Anybody in any role, kind of always keep the feelers out there. When I was looking to go into maybe another kind of tech fully remote position because I enjoyed that. There was a local position, and I had some connections in the community with people that worked at this company, and they're like, hey, we've been trying to find somebody to really build this technology, IT and cybersecurity business, but we haven't found the right person. Would you come in and interview for it? And it was one of those things that I was like, ooh, do I really want to give up fully remote work? Do I really, I like these Zoom meetings and, like kind of not going into the office. But I made that pivot because there's a couple different things. I really liked the culture that was there, and it was another challenge. It was kind of like tech sales working in that startup space. I think as a teacher, there's like that constant need to want to try to improve things and go back to the drawing board and revamp it. Like building a business from the ground up seemed like such an awesome challenge where you would have to continually pivot and try new things and be flexible. I kind of was like, all right, I'll try local. Let's see what happens. Just up for another challenge. Then I'm the regional sales lead here, but if you've ever worked in a startup, you know that like you're doing marketing, you're doing operations, you're networking and part of all the community events now. So it's a completely different challenge, but it is one that is a lot of fun. And the more I'm in this space, the more I kind of wonder why more people aren't looking locally a little bit at companies for sales, because there's a good amount of roles open. And I kind of contrast that to LinkedIn, where some places are like shutting their doors to hiring. A lot of local companies in these areas have a lot to offer and like a great work-life balance still. So that's kind of how I made that pivot, and a new challenge. So
what would you say is the best way to kind of get into your local market? Were you, driving around knocking on doors? or calling places? What's kind of, because I know a lot of teachers are searching on LinkedIn, on Indeed, these different platforms, but tell us locally, what are some of the tips and tricks?
Go out into your community and talk to people. That's the biggest thing that I can say. Like, there is so many things with local chamber of commerces that are going on nonstop, and you just got to go and have coffee and shake hands and be curious. Like, that's it. Even if it doesn't seem like it'll be a fit somewhere, or they're like, I don't know if I want to do that. Hey, can I buy you coffee and talk to you about your business and your role for 30 minutes? And you would be surprised the doors that open up from that. Really makes a big difference. The other thing, don't stray away from LinkedIn, even if you're local. There's local communities and local places to follow, whether it's chamber of commerces, whether that's the cities, or villages or townships, whatever that is. Follow it and don't stop creating content to show your value to other people, because LinkedIn is like a live resume where people get to know you. And being someone that's going from teaching into sales or anywhere, people are skeptical who they hire. And if you can just put a reel of all the things that you're doing all the time, it's going to set you apart from other people. I kind of see this a lot. I see, like, I'm open to work, but that's the first time they posted in 8 months. Don't do that. Like, when I got into sales, I was reading books, and after every week, I use these little Post-it notes here that are still sitting by my desk because I still do this, and I find all the things that were takeaways, and then I would record videos and I'd break them down and be like, hey, here's the things that I learned today about gap selling from Keenan, or Never Split the Difference. I know I'm like name dropping some of these books, but those are the ones that people are like, hey, what should I read when I want to get into sales? And then people like see that you're willing to do the work on your own and you're not being forced to, because no one wants to babysit their next hire. They want someone that can come in and add value right away.
It sounds like the two main things from what I heard were build those relationships, make those connections, and then also create relevant content. That way you're showing your knowledge, what you've learned through upskilling. Those are two really great tips. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you mentioned a little bit previously about this in the tech space, just the nature of hiring, firing, layoffs, and just kind of like a dynamic environment, a dynamic market. And when you look at teachers, sometimes it can be a bit more stable. You can get tenure in the public school system. They're looking to leave, but they know they might be leaving some of this job security behind. Any tips for those kind of on the edge there?
Well, that's interesting because, I don't want to have anybody be irresponsible, right? And be like, hey, just go do it. I'm a firm believer in never leaving something until you have something else lined up. I know it's tough to do both things. And I know as a teacher, there were times where I was so frustrated that I'm like, maybe I just leave and I'll figure it out after. Like, try not to work from a point of desperation or like needed urgency when you're applying for jobs, because I think that can kind of come off sometimes. So if you have a job right now, I would highly recommend you keep it in teaching and use strategic time to upskill to then reach out and go do those other things. I know you got kids, like I got kids. I know it gets busy, but if it's summer, if it's taking 45 minutes during your prep period, even though, I'm sure a kid's knocking on the door and wanting to talk to you, like whatever that is, dedicate that time and really block it off. And I would suggest doing that before you take the jump, because it is less stable, I would say. With that being said, there's a lot more monetary benefits and a lot more things that you can build in for, like, even in sales, you have a potential to earn a lot more. Don't start increasing your lifestyle or doing all this stuff because you got into sales. I think some of the things that, like, be in the position to be able to walk away from a toxic work environment or go and search for a new job later. Sales comes with some other benefits. Build up a little nest egg to go, hey, if something bad were to happen, can I live off this for the next 6 to 12 months? Like, put yourself in a position to really succeed. And sales allows you to do that. It's just kind of managing that. Nothing's harder. Things aren't that much harder than teaching. Okay. I'll just say that, like, you can do it. Don't be afraid that you're not going to be able to succeed. There's a way to succeed. There's a lot of jobs out there. And just because you land that first one, it doesn't even mean it's going to be the right thing. So
I hear this connection, and I think it's really fun because it's taking me back to your teaching days with when you taught accounting and finance management, and
yeah.
that's like your mindset now.
Yeah. And I mean, teachers are good at stretching that stuff sometimes. Some people only get paid through the school year and then they, like try to make it last over the summer. I can never do that. I get anxiety. I'm like, just make it go all the way through. But, they're used to doing this already. It's just leaving teaching can be emotional because it is such a hard job. And you go, oh, there's got to be something a little bit more maybe rewarding and getting paid what I'm worth and different, but try to remove the emotion when you're making those decisions and just put yourself in a position to succeed.
I'm kind of curious if you would kind of walk us through a day in the life of a regional sales manager.
Right now, my day is crazy because we are revamping our pricing, which we just ended up rolling out. We're also implementing some project management stuff. So I'm kind of spearheading that. And we have an intern, brand new, a former student, believe it or not, from my teaching days, came in. We still have that connection. So right now we're learning how to write some emails, and then he's also learning about his cybersecurity on the side. But typically, what I'm doing is I'm prospecting. So I'm looking at the verticals that we are really interested in at M2 Technology. So for us, that's manufacturing, that's dental, that's financial institutions. I'm looking at who those people are. I'm researching their company. I'm looking for triggers for when they might want to switch IT providers or when they might grow into the position that they need an IT provider. Or somebody to help them with their cybersecurity. So then I'm living in LinkedIn a lot of the time and Apollo, taking a look at who those decision makers are, and I'm essentially putting them into sequences. I'm calling them, I'm emailing them. I could be stopping by their office. I'm trying to connect with them in other ways. They got a fundraiser going on for lunch today. All right, cool. Let's go support them. Let's go buy some sandwiches and hang out and make those connections. And then when I'm not on prospecting, I'm probably doing solution design, which is essentially when a company has said, yes, we are interested in working with you, then looking at their network and everything else and working with my network engineers to build out solutions for them. And what I'm doing as a regional sales lead is doing full cycle sales. So that means that we're looking at the solution design, we're proposing pricing, we're negotiating pricing, we're closing deals, we're looking at onboarding schedules, and then also customer success after that. So how are we doing? How can we measure that? So it's a full cycle, and that's usually how my day is kind of pieced out. Is I'm usually blocking time to go, here's my 3 hours of prospecting. I got to go record a podcast right now for our marketing stuff. And then I need a little operational, and then I'm going to end it with some more sales outreach, or I'm going to a local chamber to get coffee and breakfast and meet some new business owners. Right now, it's a little all over, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're doing.
Thank you for breaking it down. It was nice to hear a little bit about prospecting, what that means at your company, some of the different softwares you use like Apollo and then Full Cycle and what that means at your company. Do you have designated customer success people after, or were you saying it's wearing different hats? And
Yeah, it's just me right now. We're in full-on startup mode. I love it. I mean, we have over 100 customers, and this business that I work at has grown organically for 5 years with just some amazing network engineers. And our parent company is just super supportive. But over the last year, the goal has been to really move the needle on those processes and all those different things. And, customer success was one of those first things that we did it, but we didn't have a process behind it. So our network engineers would do customer success. Hey, how's it going? We wouldn't really measure anything, but we would always be touching base and being very personal. I'm like, we're doing it, but we don't have a process and we're not measuring. Right now there isn't. It's just me, and we're building that up. But we're constantly adding team members as we find that need.
that's so fun. I love the startup mentality.
Yeah.
Aspireship's a startup as well, and there's just always things moving and grooving. So
Yeah, absolutely. I never thought I'd learn project management software. Like out of all the things I've done, I'm like, we're using Monday.com now, and I'm like, this is amazing. Why haven't I been using this for, forever? Once again, it's like that technology thing where you just get to keep on learning new things. And that's what I loved about teaching is, okay, I'm teaching coding. What's C#? Let's learn it. And it's the same thing in sales if you're with the right company and they really give you some autonomy. And I think that that's the biggest difference with the previous position as a BDR. As a BDR, get ready to make a lot of calls and make a lot of emails. What I like about the startup environment at maybe a little bit local is they might lean on you for some different things and you really get to stretch yourself and do different tasks operationally, marketing, whatever that looks like.
And that's so helpful to hear. Every company will look different. Every position will look different at various companies. So what would you tell a teacher right now if she was looking to leave teaching to get into tech sales?
Well, first I'd say take the Aspireship course, okay? Because I would not have gotten into sales if it wasn't for that course. It's like a cheat code a little bit. I always say I kind of slide into all my jobs like I'm not supposed to be there. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and I ran big box retail stores. Somebody let me in and I got to run with it. And then when I was a teacher, I did a special little certification and they let me slide in for 5.5 years. I got super lucky. And Aspireship allowed me to kind of slide into sales without getting a business degree. So I've just been super lucky in that aspect. And Aspireship is the thing that allowed me to do that. There's not a lot of risk when it comes to just exploring these things. Go take the Aspireship course and then figure out is this actually interesting to me? Does this feel like work right now? If it does, maybe it's not the right role for you. Go read books that are related to sales. I could throw out a lot of different ones, but I would say reach out to salespeople and ask them specifically for the books that helped them. And if you're falling asleep reading them over and over, maybe sales isn't for you. You should have some passion and some fire looking in there. So make sure that it's something that is interesting to you, and then start building your network and start being a content creator. I would say that is the thing that will separate you. And don't worry about not knowing what you don't know. People expect you not to know things when you're first starting out. So take advantage of that and document your journey as you grow, because people will want to see you go on that journey. It is a fun thing to witness and it shows your ability to learn. And that's what sales is all about. So just start digging in and dedicating that time to it. If you don't, and you're just yeah, sales must be better, you could switch careers and then be looking to switch again, right? So I know there's that urgency, I got to get out, but make sure you really want it and make sure that you're okay with a competitive environment. Because in teaching, I don't think that's always there. We can get a little bit I know I could get comfortable in that realm, but sales is you're on a team, but you're also being measured around other people. So get ready to kind of grind and get in that environment a little. I hope I'm not scaring people from sales. I just think you should know that it's tough in a different way, but it's super rewarding.
Absolutely. Those are great actionable next steps. What's your work-life balance? Is it different than teaching? Tell us a little bit about how that has changed, if it has changed.
Yeah, my work-life balance is totally different. I would say as a teacher, my work-life balance was very, very bad. Someone would hand me a textbook and be like, this is what you teach the kids. It's okay. There was no lesson plans, anything like that when I walked in. And if I did, they were from 1995 and they were the most boring thing in the world. And I was I'm going to fall asleep teaching it. I know the kids are going to fall asleep. So for that period of time, I was nonstop creating course content that would keep me up till 8 o'clock at night all the time. And classroom management issues, I was pretty good at it, but when something bad happened, it doesn't matter how thick your skin is. It could just stick with me all day and it would affect my home life. I worked harder as a teacher than I think I did at any other job that I've ever had, because I had to. Because the next day, you knew that you were standing in front of students, and if you didn't have it prepared, for me, that made me very uncomfortable. And if you're just going to go, I couldn't just say, hey, go read this chapter and do these vocab words. So my personality did not mesh very well with the teaching aspect of just go out of a textbook. I was constantly changing things. And then summer, I know it's a vacation. There you go. I'm in camera here. But the entire time during summer, I would think about doing lesson plans for next year. And then I would end up, like dedicating half my summer to it anyways. I had a lot of trouble with work-life balance as a teacher. When it comes to sales, my work-life balance is just so much better because I don't have to take things home with me. I still work, that same amount of hours, and I get a flexible work schedule. But if I'm working from 7 to 4, I kind of like getting up in the morning and spending time with my daughter and getting that breakfast time and stuff. And then I can go into the office, whether it's 7:30, or 8. Like, we have flexible times. And if something's pulling me away at night, I make sure it's a priority, and it's usually a customer issue. And in all honesty, I'm so excited about it. Usually it's like, oh my God, this email came through. We're moving this deal along. This is awesome. And when I have to answer an email at 7 o'clock at night, not because I have to, but because I want to, and I care about urgency with customers, like, I'm excited about it. And it's made it so when I'm with my daughter and my family, I can be really intentional on where I'm focusing my energy. So even if I had more time as a teacher, I'd say, like during the summer, my brain wasn't always on the family. It was on, oh man, I feel kind of guilty. I'm getting to go to the zoo today. Advanced marketing doesn't have any video lessons recorded for, like, I'm only on week 8 of 12 for this class. Like, I got to get back there. Yeah, sales has been like a real big blessing for our family when it comes to that work-life balance.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. And I think that can be true, with your brain is still on. Even if you're on a break or over summer, your brain is thinking, well, what's next? Or what new curriculum do we need? Or how are we going to manage this behavior? Before we wrap up, we like to ask you this one last question. What have you learned about yourself during this process, transitioning from education into sales?
Yeah, I think I've realized that I need something competitive in my life. Teaching was rewarding, but rewarding in a different way. And sales, as I get older and I'm not engaging in as many physical activities or playing in rec leagues of things because time and everything, like, I need to be involved in something that's competitive and engaging. And sales has been that thing for me, where I can go for 8.5 hours and just engage in a competition. And there's nobody else on my sales team. Okay. So I'm engaging in a competition, but it's with myself, and it's like for the business. And I really, really like that. And I couldn't get it anywhere else. And the other thing is, most jobs seem intimidating on the outside, but when you get into it, like, people can learn, and people can do any job other than, don't let me do brain surgery or anything like that. But don't sell yourself short. Just because you have a teaching degree or something like that doesn't mean you can't be a customer success manager or pivot into project management or any of these other things. Jobs aren't that hard. It's about effort, and it's about being able to learn. For me, I really enjoy learning, so it's just made it so my journey from police officer to retail management to sales has been an enjoyable one and not a frustrating one, if that makes sense.
It does. And it was so nice to have you on today, Brandon. Looking forward to sharing with the community, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.